There's a state with no income tax, no tax on Social Security, no tax on pensions. For 40 years, it was sold as the perfect retirement destination. 5,000 retirees showed up. Then the insurance bill arrived. $8,290 on average, statewide. And in some coastal counties, over $22,000 a year for a house you already own. Retirement in America isn't being destroyed by one dramatic collapse. It's being quietly taken apart by 10 states that make the math work against you. One tax line, one property bill, one insurance cancellation at a time. States where the pension check is taxed before you open the envelope. States where the property tax doesn't stop when the mortgage does. States where the dream was sold for 40 years and the fine print showed up 30 years later. In this countdown, we're exposing the 10 states that are quietly destroying retirement in America. Not with a headline, with 1,000 small financial cuts applied every single month until the fixed income stops covering the fixed expenses. Subscribe before your retirement state makes this list. Let's count them down. Number 10, Minnesota. Retiring in Minnesota is like finally cashing in 40 years of savings and then discovering the state has opinions about every single account you touch. Here's the part nobody puts in the retirement brochure. Minnesota taxes all retirement income, not just one account, all of it. 401k withdrawals, IRA distributions, pension payments, all taxed at state rates running from 5.35% to 9.85%, one of the highest income tax ranges in the entire country. And Social Security? Minnesota does provide an exemption, but it phases out above $108,320 for married couples and $84,490 for single filers. Above those thresholds, the state starts taking its cut of the check you spent 40 years earning. About 21% of Minnesota households receiving Social Security benefits actually pay state tax on that income. Minnesota House of Representatives, which sounds manageable until you're the one in that 21%. And if your retirement income comes from a combination of Social Security, a pension, and an IRA, Minnesota is reaching into multiple pockets simultaneously. Property taxes run above the national median. Heating bills start in October and don't stop until April. Picture this. You're 68 years old. You sit down in January to review your finances. The retirement accounts are solid. The house is paid off. And then you add up what Minnesota takes out of every income stream you have. The pension, the IRA distribution, the Social Security if you're above the threshold. And you realize the state is a silent partner in your retirement that nobody mentioned when you were still working. One retired Minnesota teacher said it plainly. I built this retirement carefully for 30 years. I did not build in a co-owner. To be fair, Minnesota has the Mayo Clinic, genuinely excellent healthcare access, and public services that are among the best funded in the Midwest. Those services are funded in part by the retirement income you are hoping to keep. Minnesota doesn't destroy retirement dramatically. It just shows up every April with a very detailed invoice and excellent hospitals nearby in case the stress gets to you. Number 9, Rhode Island. Retiring in Rhode Island is like renting a charming cottage with an ocean view and then discovering the maintenance fees are the size of a second mortgage you never budgeted for. Rhode Island is one of the most beautiful small states in America. It is also one of the most expensive places to retire on a fixed income. Cost of living, running approximately 22% above the national average. Property taxes among the highest in the country relative to home values. Median home prices above $450,000. And Social Security is taxed at the state level for higher earners. Specifically, if your adjusted gross income exceeds $133,750 for joint filers, Rhode Island includes your Social Security in taxable state income, which means the retirees who saved the most, the ones with a pension plus Social Security plus an IRA, are exactly the ones who get hit. For a retiree with a paid-off home, the property tax bill arrives every year regardless. Equity doesn't pay monthly expenses, cash does. And on a fixed income, a property tax that increases every year is not an inconvenience. It's a slow leak that eventually drains the account. Picture this. You're sitting on your deck in Narragansett. The view is genuinely stunning. The coffee is hot. The property tax bill is on the kitchen table. And you're doing math in your head that didn't look this tight when you moved here. One Rhode Island retiree wrote it plainly on a local seniors forum. "I own my home free and clear. I still can't afford to stay in it." Rhode Island has made genuine infrastructure investments. The seafood is exceptional. The coastline is legitimately one of the best in America. Those are the reasons you move there. The property tax bill is the reason people are reconsidering. Number 8. Vermont. Retiring in Vermont is like moving into a postcard and then discovering the postcard costs twice what you budget. ETED and runs on heating oil that starts being expensive in September. Vermont has some of the most genuinely beautiful scenery in America. It also has property taxes with some of the highest effective rates in New England, a cost of living that puts real pressure on anyone not drawing substantial income, limited specialist healthcare access outside of Burlington, and Social Security taxation above certain income thresholds. Vermont provides a full exemption on Social Security for couples with adjusted gross income at or below $70,000, and single filers at or below $55,000. Above those thresholds, the exemption phases out, which means the couple who retired with a pension plus Social Security plus modest savings is exactly the profile Vermont starts taxing. Vermont's population is aging faster than it can replace itself. Younger workers are leaving. Smaller towns are watching services thin out quietly. Rural retirees who moved for the peace and the foliage are now making longer drives to doctors, discovering that the closest specialist is farther than it used to be, and finding that the infrastructure around them is not keeping pace with what they actually need. Picture this. It's April in Vermont. Not warm yet. The heating bill is still running. You're looking at your quarterly property tax notice, and you're thinking about the couple 2 towns over who moved to the Carolinas last fall. They text you pictures of their deck in March, 68 degrees. One Vermont retiree said it the way only someone living it daily can. "I came for the foliage. I stayed because selling felt like giving up. The winters are not what they were when I was 55, and the heating bills are not either." Vermont is not a bad place to retire. It is a beautiful place to retire. The problem is surviving the math of doing it on a fixed income in a state with high property taxes, high heating costs, and 4 very real seasons that all have their own budget line. Number 7. Connecticut. Retiring in Connecticut is like inheriting a beautiful old house that looks completely solid from the outside, and then discovering the foundation has been quietly cracking for 30 years and the repair bill is arriving right now. Connecticut taxes Social Security benefits for retirees above certain income thresholds. Property taxes average over $6,500 per year, top 5 in the nation, and the state carries over $90 billion in unfunded pension liabilities, a number that has been growing for decades and been solved exactly 0 times. Here's why that number matters directly to you as a retiree. When a state is spending that much covering its own pension obligations, it has less money for everything else. Healthcare services, road maintenance, senior programs. The services a 68-year-old actually depends on get squeezed, so the state can make payments on promises made 30 years ago to someone else. Population has been flat or declining since 2013. High earners are leaving for Florida and New Hampshire, which means the tax base is shrinking while the obligations keep growing. Someone has to cover the gap. That someone is the property owner who stayed. Picture this. You're at the kitchen table in Fairfield County. Beautiful house. Colonial town. Paid off mortgage. And you're looking at the property tax bill for the year and doing arithmetic that keeps producing the same uncomfortable answer. One Connecticut retiree wrote it plainly. "I thought I was set. Paid off house. Good pension. But the property tax goes up every year and the services it supposedly funds keep getting quietly cut." Connecticut slightly improved its bond credit rating in recent years. That's like your landlord repainting the lobby while the boiler is dying. Good news, still cold. If this is making you recalculate something, hit subscribe. This channel runs the numbers that retirement brochure. Res don't include. Subscribe now. Let's keep going. Number 6, Maryland. Retiring in Maryland is like moving into a neighborhood that looks affordable on the listing and then discovering the HOA has been quietly adding fees for 20 years and a new board just raised rates again. Maryland does not tax Social Security. That's a genuine positive worth saying clearly. But Maryland taxes almost every other retirement income stream you have. Pension distributions, 401k withdrawals, IRA distributions, which do not qualify for the pension exclusion and are taxed in full. Maryland does offer a pension exclusion of up to $41,200 for retirees 65 and older. But here's the catch your accountant might not mention. That $41,200 exclusion is reduced dollar for dollar by your Social Security and Railroad retirement benefits. So if you receive $35,000 in Social Security, your available pension exclusion drops to $6,100. Once Social Security exceeds roughly $41,100, the pension exclusion is effectively eliminated. RCS planning, translation: the more you receive in Social Security, the less of your pension you can shelter. The state rewards Social Security recipients with an exemption and then quietly takes back the pension exclusion with the other hand. And the top state income tax rate? Maryland introduced two new tax brackets in 2025, 6.25% for income between $500,000 and $1,000 and 6.5% above $1,000. Tax slayer. Add the county income tax that most Maryland jurisdictions layer on top, and the combined effective rate hits 8% or higher for many retirees above the median. One retired federal worker shared it on a Maryland seniors forum. I spent 30 years in federal service. I thought I understood what my retirement income would look like. Then I read the pension exclusion worksheet carefully. Picture this. You're a retired couple in Montgomery County. You receive $38,000 in combined Social Security. You have a pension. You sit down with the worksheet, and you discover your pension exclusion is now $3,200 because Social Security ate the rest. Maryland is not the worst state on this list for retirees. It is the most complicated one, and complicated is expensive when you're paying someone to figure it out every April. Number 5. New Jersey. Retiring in New Jersey is like signing a contract you read very carefully and then discovering there's a page at the back that wasn't included in the copy they showed you. New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the United States. Not top 3, not top 2, number 1. Averaging close to $9,500 to $10,000 per year. $800 per month, every month. Whether you're working or retired, whether children are in school or not, whether the roads look like roads or like the aftermath of something. For a retiree on a fixed monthly income of $3,000 to $4,000, $800 in property taxes before groceries, utilities, insurance, and prescriptions is not a line item you manage. It's a structural problem you try not to look at directly. New Jersey does not tax Social Security benefits. That is real and meaningful. It does tax pension income above certain thresholds. And the cost of living running nearly 20% above the national average means every dollar of fixed income buys less here than almost anywhere else. Picture this. You're 70 years old. You've lived in your New Jersey house for 35 years. You raised your kids there. You know every neighbor. And you're sitting across from a spreadsheet that keeps producing the same answer. You can afford the house. You cannot afford to own it. One retiree described it the way most people feel it. I spent my entire career in Jersey. I love it here, but I cannot afford to retire here. Those are two separate sentences, and they are both completely true. New Jersey does not ask you to leave. It simply makes staying increasingly difficult, one quarterly tax bill at a time, until the spreadsheet makes the decision for you. Number 4. Illinois. Retiring in Illinois is like winning a pension you spent 30 years earning, and then spending the next 20 years quietly reading state budget reports to make sure the check keeps clearing. Illinois does not tax retirement income, no tax on Social Security, no tax on pension distributions, no tax on 401k or IRA withdrawals. On paper, one of the most retiree-friendly tax environments in the country. And then you look at the property taxes, averaging $9,500 per year, among the highest in the nation. And then you look at the pension system, on $143.5 billion in unfunded liabilities. The worst funded state pension system in the country. And here is the number that should make every Illinois retiree stop. Illinois now spends more on pension obligations than on higher education. That money has to come from somewhere. It comes from service cuts. It comes from deferred infrastructure. It comes from a state that is financially trapped by promises it cannot fully keep and cannot legally walk away from. The most politically available solution is property taxes. which is you. Picture this. You're at dinner with a retired Illinois state employee. She's not worried about this month's check. She's worried about the state pension fund's funding ratio. She knows what 40% funded means. She's 72 and reading actuarial reports. That's not retirement. That's a second job with no salary and a lot of anxiety. One retired Illinois teacher said it plainly. I earned this pension fair and square. I'm not worried about today. I'm worried about the math in 10 years when the fund runs shorter and nobody has a credible plan for the difference. Illinois has excellent hospitals, a world-class city in Chicago, and cultural depth that most stay. Tess would trade a decade of growth to have. It has also lost 550,000 residents since 2014. As a meaningful share of them were retirees and pre-retirees who looked at the balance sheet and decided not to wait to see how it ends. Not dramatic, just arithmetic. Number 3, New York. Retiring in New York is like finally getting paid after 40 years of work and then sitting down to read the fine print and discovering the fine print is 47 pages long and mostly not in your favor. New York exempts Social Security from state income tax, but pensions, 401k withdrawals, and IRA distributions are taxed, with exemptions that depend on where the income comes from and that do not fully offset the rates. The top state income tax rate is 10.9%. Add the New York City local tax for anyone in the 5 boroughs, and the combined rate exceeds 13%. Property taxes in New York's suburbs are brutal. Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk, all among the highest in the country. New York has lost over 1,000 residents to other states since 2020. IRS data shows a net loss of over 108,000 tax filers in a single year, taking their income to Florida and Texas. A disproportionate share of those filers were over 55. Picture this. You're a retired couple in Westchester. You have a pension, Social Security, and some IRA savings. You sit down and calculate what staying in New York costs versus what it costs in Florida. The number is not a rounding error. It is the difference between a comfortable retirement and a stressful one, and the number gets bigger every year. One departing New Yorker said it with the kind of exhausted accuracy only someone who stayed too long can produce. New York doesn't break you, it just bills you until you break yourself. New York will always attract people. The energy is real, the mythology is too powerful to kill, but the people being priced out of retirement aren't people who failed here. They're the ones who succeeded here for 30 years and then did the math on staying. When Tate prices out the people who built it. It isn't in decline, it's in denial. Number 2, California. Retiring in California is like spending 40 years running toward a finish line that kept moving, arriving at it, and then discovering it moved again while you were catching your breath. California taxes all retirement income, 401k withdrawals, IRA distributions, pension payments, all of it, at rates reaching 13.3% at the top bracket. The median home price statewide sits above $840,000. For retirees who own their homes, that equity is real and significant on paper. But Proposition 13 created a trap nobody talks about openly. Long-term homeowners pay property taxes based on decades-old assessed values, which sounds protective, until they try to downsize. Selling the family home and buying something smaller means the new property gets assessed at full 2026 market value. In many California counties, that means going from $2,000 per year in property taxes to $10,000 or more on a smaller, less expensive home. You have the wealth. You cannot access it without triggering a tax structure that punishes the decision to move. Picture this. You own a California home worth $100,000. You want to sell it and move somewhere smaller. You run the numbers, the capital gains, the new property tax assessment, the cost of living everywhere you'd realistically want to go within California. And you realize the equity is real, but the ability to use it without losing a significant portion of it is not. One California retiree wrote it in a housing forum. I have a house worth over $1,000, and I'm trying to figure out how to afford to stay in it. That sentence should not be grammatically possible. California has the best weather in the country, the most innovative economy, coastline that genuinely earns every description anyone has ever given it. It also has wildfires that have made home insurance in large portions of the state either extremely expensive or simply unavailable. and gas prices that make California's sprawling geography a recurring monthly budget decision for retirees who drive everywhere because there is nowhere to walk to. California is still beautiful. Beauty doesn't pay property tax. And in 2026, a growing number of California retirees are calculating that the equity in that house is more useful somewhere. The math still works. Number 1. Florida. Retiring in Florida is like being sold the perfect story for 40 years, committing to it completely, and then arriving to discover someone changed the terms while you were still packing. Florida built its entire retirement identity on a simple promise. No state income tax, no tax on Social Security, no tax on pensions. Warm weather, sunshine, a cost of life that was genuinely reasonable for decades. The promise worked. 5,000 residents, 65 and older, now call Florida home. And the state they arrived in is not the state that was in the brochure. Let's start with the number that changed everything. Florida's average annual cost of home insurance hit $8,290 in 2025, an 18% increase over the previous year. Home insurance costs have risen by more than 14% in the state since 2023. Insurify. That's the statewide average. Go to the coast and the numbers become a different conversation entirely. The most expensive counties are Monroe at $20,436 per year, Miami-Dade at $15,715, and Palm Beach at $14,235. Insurify. For a retiree on a fixed income, $22,000 a year in insurance is not a line item. It's a financial emergency that arrives in the mailbox every January and does not negotiate. The number of properties insured through Citizens, Florida's state-backed insurer of last resort, peaked at 1.4 million in October 2023 before the state began aggressively moving POs, policyholders, to private carriers. Insurify. As of January 2025, Citizens policies in force declined to about 395,000, representing a 50% reduction from the prior year. Florida Governor's Office. The state calls this a stabilization of the market, which is true. But stabilization from a crisis is not the same as returning to what retirement was supposed to cost. And the private carriers those policyholders were moved to are often newer, thinner, and operating in a market nobody else wanted to be in at normal rates. Picture this. You're 71 years old. You retired to Sarasota 8 years ago because the math made perfect sense in 2017. No income tax, reasonable insurance, beautiful weather. And now you're sitting at your kitchen table looking at a home insurance renewal that is triple what you were paying when you moved here. Your neighbor on the left just lost coverage entirely. Your neighbor on the right is looking at assisted living brochures because staying in the house doesn't make financial sense anymore. This is not what you saved for. One Sarasota retiree said it the way only someone who planned carefully and still got surprised can say it. I did everything right. I saved for 35 years. I paid off the house. I chose Florida specifically because the math made sense, and now I'm paying more for insurance than I paid for my first car. Florida still has no state income tax. That is a real and meaningful advantage. But the advantage that was supposed to offset every cost of living in paradise is now being consumed by an insurance market that Hurricanes Ian, Helene, and Milton permanently restructured. The dream is still being sold at the front door. The reality is being quietly processed at the billing window. And for the millions of retirees who moved based on math that no longer applies, the gap between the two is the most expensive thing they never planned for. Retirement in America isn't just about how much you saved, it's about where you land when the saving is done. And in these 10 states, landing is getting harder every year. Not because of one catastrophic failure, because of the quiet, steady accumulation of costs that no retirement brochure mentions and no financial advisor fully models. The property tax that increases faster than your fixed income, the insurance bill that arrives in January and does not negotiate, the pension exclusion that disappears because Social Security ate it, the state pension system strained enough that you're reading actuarial reports at 72 just to make sure next month's check clears. The people who retired well in America in 2026 are not the ones who simply earned the most. They're the ones who paid attention to the math early enough to choose the right state. Subscribe, because the next video covers the states where retirement still actually works, and you want that information before you sign anything.